Welcome back to the shop, guys, and good morning. It's part 2 of this 2016 CRF250R that we're doing basically a top end on it, putting a big bore kit on it, cylinder works, a hot cam, new timing chain, that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and dig in. I kind of just got the camera rolling here before I really had everything set up, so bear with me for a second. And sorry about the background noise. It's Florida, it's hot, so I got fans running in the shop and everything. All right, we got the brand new hot cams here. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, there'll be a link down in the description. Got the head all nice and cleaned up. Let me see if I can wipe this up right here. Yeah, I can. Okay, just some goo. Alright, the head's all nice and cleaned up, and still a little oily from the WD-40 that I used to clean it up, but that'll be fine. So, alright. Yep. She's looking good. New valves came out good, as you saw in the last video. Everything's looking good. So, alright, we have this hot cam here. Let's see what kind of instructions they came with. Because sometimes, oh, yep, here it is. Sometimes they have a little bit of a different valve adjustment they expect you to do. The valve lash, set lash cold, well, obvious. So they definitely have a different valve lash that they expect us to set it to. At least I believe it they do. Let me compare it. Yeah, what it appears like they're having us, because I'm more of a standard guy, not a metric guy. So 0.28 of a millimeter is 11 thousandths. It appears like they're having us set the exhaust a little bit on the looser side, and the intake with it being at 12. Well, I don't have a 12 here. I have a 10 and a 13. It goes from 4 thousandths to 5 thousandths. So we're gonna say it's very tight 5 thousandths, a 4 going on 5. They're setting the intake on the tight side, so that's, you know, I'm just gonna follow their instructions because they're the one that assembled the cam. Of course, the box comes with some nice decals, and this thing right here, which is probably just advertisement. Let me see. Yeah. All right. So we got the decals. We have some preparation instructions, some do's and don'ts. See, yep, they said it right here. Check the cam card included the cam shafts, as sometimes our recommended lash settings are different from OEM recommendations. So yeah, and of course they tell you not to use synthetic oil during break-in, and to use some semi-lube on the camshaft, and yada yada yada. It's all your very standard stuff. But all right, I'll set this aside because we're gonna need that when it's time to adjust the valve. So let's pull this nice camshaft out of the bag here. Let me clean up my spot there. Actually, let me flip this rag over. It'll be brand new again. There we go. Look what I found. Remember I lost that in the last video? I told you that would pop up. Ooh, little sucker. Alright. It was underneath my rag the whole time, and I thought I checked underneath there. Oh well. They always pop up, it seems like. Unless I leave the tool like underneath someone's seat on their bike or something. I gotta tell you a story real fast. This thing right here, this magnet, you know, you can slide it out of here. It's about that long. I lost it one time, and I was butthurt because I love that little thing. It was gone for a year, just lost. Well, a quad came back to me to repair, and as the guy's dropping off the quad, he's looking it over with me. He says, "What's this?" And he pulls that little thing off of his frame, inside of the frame by the motor, like tucked in there real good. I said, "That's my magnet. I lost that thing a year ago." He said he was riding around with that thing on and never lost it, and it was crazy. So yeah, I guess they returned to you. Okay, we have to put the auto decompression from the original camshaft and this bearing onto this camshaft. So that shouldn't be too difficult. We have to slide this off here just far enough. You slide the bearing off. To get it off, you'll see it kind of hits like that because there's a pin in here. But if you take the auto decompression weight here and move like that, we get the pin further up. Now let me get that fancy magnet I was just talking about. There it is, got the pin out. That's why I love that little magnet. It kind of works in the tightest places. I'm going to keep looking around for another one because, again, I like to have 2 of everything, and I'm down to 1 of them. But now that we have that pin out, we should be able to slide this out. Now, you want to pay attention when you go to pull this out, which way the spring is attached to it, where it is attached. Because we need to put it back into the new camshaft the exact same way. There we go. Now we can slide this bearing off. No, there's not a plunger in this one. That's right, it uses that piece. Okay, let me set this aside for now. Got a new camshaft here. Okay, make sure you put the bearing on the right way. You see it has the groove right there on that side, so this one will be on the opposite side, mirroring it. Bearing goes on first. Then we'll put the auto decompression in. I'm going to hook that spring tab right here, there, like that. Hold it there with my finger. Move the weight around here. Slide it on. I'm going to check, make sure the spring pressure feels about the same as it did on the stock one. I mean, I have the spring back in the right place. Now we have to get that pin in there. So we have to reverse the order how we got it out. Open that, and slide that little sucker right on in there. There we go. And the bearing will hold that pin in place. Alright, we have that camshaft ready to go. Wipe it up real quick. Okay, let me get the cylinder head. I'm going to start with the shims that were originally in it. Start with that and go from there. I don't expect them to work out because, you know, when you're putting an aftermarket cam in, they usually have a slightly different base circle. So I expect to have to shim to that. But I'm going to start with the shims that it was originally in it. Let's just see where we're at. Actually, I can put that on afterward. I'm not going to worry about putting them half moon shaped things in as I'm adjusting the cams. You really don't have to. Just all you got to do is make sure that you have the bearings in pretty much where they're supposed to be, which I can see. Typically, if you look closely, I don't know if you can see it on camera, you can see a marking of where that little thing was resting right here. And over here, a little harder to see. Yeah, there it is right there. So I gotta slide it over just a hair. There we go. Alright, I got it set up good. And let me set these lobes where they're out of the way. Alright. That faces the intake side. It says intake, has an arrow, and it says L for left, so that's the left side. Same thing, right intake. Alright. Okay. Okay, I got this impact set on the low setting. I'm getting familiar with it. It doesn't put a lot of torque down in the low setting, but that's okay. We just need it to bottom these bolts out. There we go. You know what? Duh. Forgot to put the exhaust bridge in. It'll only take a second. Or the rocker arm, I mean. Set that in there. Now these have these little cutouts right here, and that's what this slides, these bolts slide through to hold it in place. So when you slide it through, you want to make sure you look down in these holes and position it in the right place, so the bolts will just slide right on in. Of course, you got to hold the rocker. We move it off the auto decompression here. There we go. I'm looking down in the holes. Make sure I can just drop these suckers right on in. There we go. Alright. Break out my feelers gauge. Okay. Let's start with the exhaust. It said 28 thousandths. I'm sorry, 0.28 millimeters. So we have that right there, which is 11 thousandths. A little on the tight side, little on the tight side. How tight though? Let's see. Let's try 9 thousandths. Oh yeah, no, it's definitely tight. Let's make sure it's 8 thousandths, still tight. Let's go all the way down to 6 thousandths. Let's see. Yeah, I can get a 6 in there with a little bit of friction. That one's tight. So these are tight. That's going to need an adjustment. We're going to have to put some smaller shims in there. But let's check the intake out over here. That's supposed to be 0.12 millimeters. So let me slide a 0.10 in there first, which is 4 thousandths. Let me set it like this. Let me see what I'm doing. No problem, no problem. Okay, let's try the 13 thousandths. I mean, 0.13 millimeter or 5 thousandths. I can get it in, but with just a little bit of friction. Can't get that one. Oh yeah, I can get this one in with friction. Now remember, they said it was supposed to be 12, right? So if I can get it in, if I can get a 13 in with friction on this one, as long as the 12 has no friction, I'm gonna, the 0.12 millimeter, I'm sorry, 10 millimeter. Where did it go? There it is, the 4 thousandths. Let's see how that one feels again. Well, that one's, I still got a little bit of friction in that one, so I'm going to say this one right here needs to be a hair bit looser, just a hair. And let's go back to this one over here. 13 fits in with a little bit of friction, so that's good. And the 10, no friction. I'm going to say this one's good. I'm going to call that one good because the 10 or the 4 thousandths has like 0 friction. And the next one up, which is 5 thousandths or 0.13 millimeter. Again, remember it's supposed to be a 0.12 millimeter, but they don't have a fielder's gauge in that size. Oops, wrong side. Goes in, but there's definitely friction with this one. So I'm going to say that one's good. Now obviously he's going to have to recheck these valves after they break in, but we definitely still at least want to send it out as close as we can. So this one's good. I'm not going to put a mark there, but this one we need a slightly smaller shim in there, so I'm going to put a negative mark right there. And over here, both of these are too tight, so I'm going to give both these a negative mark, meaning we need to go a little bit smaller on the shim on them too. Alright, before I do the intake though, let me just go ahead and knock the exhaust out. The exhausts on these are pretty easy because you don't have to take the whole cam out. Let me see. All I got to do is take them 2 bolts out there, slide that back on out. Booyah. Pull that out. Now we can swap out them shims. Have me a hot cam shim kit here for this bike. Pull that shim right off there. Let's see what this one measures. 2.44. Alright. We need to go smaller. And quite a bit smaller, I believe. So let me try like a 220. Let's just see. They're dropping stuff everywhere. That's not small enough in my opinion. Not for starters. I mean, it's a guessing game at this point until you get pretty close. Yeah, we'll start with that, 2.22. Alright. Let me flip that one over. There we go. Alright, now this one. This one's at 2.38. Shoot for about the same size. Again, it's kind of a guessing game right now, but heck, all these are way too small. Alright, let me try this one right here. Yeah, we'll start with that one. What the heck? Like I said, it's more of a guessing game at this point. rocker back in. Come on now, got to get the line up. There it is. Look down in the holes, make sure it's good. Alright. Again, it says the exhaust is supposed to be 0.28 millimeters. 0.28. Okay, that goes in. That one doesn't. Let's see where they're at. So let's try a 30 on this one. Goes in. 33 goes in. We have this one way too loose. Way too loose. Okay. I'm going to turn that one to a plus sign. Let me see how tight I have this one. Let's try 25. Can't get a 25 in there. 23. 0.23 millimeter. I can get it in there barely with a lot of friction. 20 or 0.20 millimeter. Okay, so that one needs to go smaller. This one needs to go bigger. So let me go ahead and pull it back apart. Taking it back apart here. Okay, that one needs to go bigger. So where was it at again? Let's see. 222. I'm going to try 237, the one that was originally in on that side. Let's just see. And this side right here needs to go smaller. $227. Let's see. Let's try the 213. Let's just see. I'll then pop it back together. We'll check it. Alright. Well, 20 goes in there just fine. Let's try the 25 just fine. 28. Oh yeah. A little bit of friction. That's good. Try the 25 again. Pretty much no friction. Okay. Let's try the 30. I can get it in there, but I pretty much got to force it. I think that one's going to be good. 28 goes in with just a little bit of friction. 25 pretty much no friction. So I believe that one's going to be good. So we'll go ahead and remove that. Let's see where this one ended up. Uh-oh, too tight. That was a 23, 0.23. This 0.23, quite a bit of friction. 0.20, pretty much no friction. This one needs to go smaller now, but we're getting there. We're getting close. We got that one right. Oh, what happened to my permanent marker? Grab another one. Can't find the one I was using. I'll grab another one. Okay, let me do it again. I'll be right back. Okay, I believe I have it. The 0.25 goes in with absolutely no friction. And the 0.28 goes in with some friction. So yeah, that's good. I do, when it comes to these exhaust sides on these Unicams to have a rocker, I definitely like to feel a little bit of friction. If they give you the exact number, I want to feel just a little bit of friction, because there's always a little bit of flex in these rockers, and they're always a little, you know, there's play in it and stuff. So a little bit of friction lets me know that that's, you know, that it's working through all the play, and maybe a little bit of flex, but that's pretty much dead on, so we're going to be good there. Yeah. Alright. That's good. We got the exhaust done. Now we got to do the intake. We won't need to even worry about... Oh, let me pull that out. We won't need to worry about the exhaust anymore. So I'm just going to leave the exhaust rocker out of there for the rest of these adjustments. I'm only worried about the intake. Okay, that one needs a slightly smaller shim. Come on, yeah. These things can really be stubborn sometimes. There we go. They get like locked on there. There we go. Alright. There we go. Pull this off. Shim stuck in there. Alright, that one's measuring 197, needs to be a little bit smaller. So not much smaller, just a little bit. So let's see what we got here. So 197. Let's try this 194. Again, it just needs to be a little bit smaller. If I remember correctly, that is. Looking for them little witness marks there. There we go. So I can line the cam up right. Alright, intake left. Intake right. Oops. Again, we don't have to worry about putting a rocker on it for the exhaust in anymore. We're not worried about that one. We got that set. Where'd my filler gauge go? There we go. And of course, I got multiple of these too. If I lose one, the job just keeps going on. Okay, 0.12 millimeters. We'll start with the 0.13 and get it in with some friction, just like the other side. Let's try the 0.10 millimeters. No friction. I think that's good. Yeah, it's got some friction. It goes in, but there's some friction, and it's equal with the other side. Intakes are good. We're going to leave it there. Again, I'm going to suggest that Eric checks these after they break in. I mean, you don't have to do it right away, but you know, I would say within 10 hours of run time. They're not going to move much, but they definitely can move a little bit as the cam breaks in. The cam surface is going to break in just a little bit, you know, so it doesn't hurt to check it. Plus, new intake valves too, they're going to seat in a little bit better, so I would definitely check this after at least 10 hours. And you might find them just a little bit off, but hey, you know, you want it perfect, right? I mean, I do, so I definitely go back through and check them, and I highly suggest that he does too. So okay, let me go and take this head back apart, take the cam off of it, set it aside, and we're going to move on to I guess changing out the timing chain. Let's go ahead and knock that out. And here we go again. These things, they go on so easy, but holy cow, they're tough to get off. They snag and come on now. Sometimes you just shake the cam around a little bit. I don't want to stick anything underneath them and pry them. I know it's tempting to do, and you can do it, but you're gonna mash up the surface. Sometimes just knocking them back down and trying again works. There we go. Alright. Woo! Like I said, you don't want to stick anything on the. If you gouge that, especially right here where the oil comes through here, it's sealing metal and metal. And if you gouge that, you're going to have a little oil leak right there. You're going to lose oil pressure. So you got to be real careful about that. Okay, we got the shims in here. Everything's good. Let me set all this aside and we're going to work on that timing chain. Alright, before I move this cover, let me go ahead and clean the old gasket material off of this right here. And it's going to be the same thing, same way that we did the bottom of the cylinder head. Just going to shove that in there to collect any debris that might try to fall in there. And I'll put some stuff in here. There we go. Same thing, just a razor blade. This stuff comes off really easily. So let me clean this up and I'll be right back. Okay. Timing chain time. tell you what did I do in the days before these power tools? Let's see, it's missing that one, no, too. Okay, one time to put them in. We got the other cover goes on top. I used to do all this stuff by hand. Holy cow. Let me pull this dipstick out, because sometimes these can snag. You want to pull these out before you pull the cover. I don't remember if this is one of the models or not. I think it's a 450 and like 09. If you don't pull that off, it'll get caught up on the flywheel and you'll break it. Alright, you give them little tabs back here to give you something to tap on. There we go. It was just snagging a little bit there. When you pull these off, you're fighting the magnetic pull of the, there it is. There's magnets in this flywheel and it grabs this stator, and that's what you're fighting against. Alright, well, this thing looks just so clean. This bike has not gotten hot. It's in really good shape. These gaskets are a pain in the butt to remove. We'll be doing that in a minute. Okay. Let's try out this impact, this new impact. I wonder if it can take that 17mm off. Let's see. Like I said, this impact's new to me. I'm just getting familiar with it. Let's test its power. Let me pull the chain up first. Oh, magnet. In case the motor does decide to spin, I mean, I'm going to hold it here. You'll notice I can spin it pretty easily down without that magnetic draw grabbing the crank. Let me hold the rod here. Let's see if this can do it. Yeah, no problem. I won't be putting it on with this impact though, because I'm not as familiar with this impact as I am my other one. I'll be using my other one because I know that sucker. I've been using that same impact. Well, I mean, let's say that's my second one of the same model, but I've been using that model for 8 years now. Okay, gotta get my flywheel puller. Let's see what size it is. Not that size. Hold on. Give me this one right here if you're doing this job at home. You see, that's the size you're gonna need right there. And it'll come with this little doohickey deal because you want to protect that. That's where it squirts the. I mean, that's where it gets the oil from the cover. You don't want to damage that. The seal has to seal on it. So these pullers come with this little thing right here, and it just protects that. That's all it does. Back that all the way down. Okay, I know you're the right size. There we go. Pretty good. Alright, let me get a socket for that. Whack it off. Oh, you know what? I have this on the low setting. Let's try the medium. Let's see how strong it is. Yeah. Medium actually is quite a bit stronger than low. That's a pretty big jump. But low's nice and soft on that impact, so I do like that for like what I was doing on the cylinder head just a minute ago. Doesn't strip that little stuff out. But there's definitely a big jump between low to medium, without a doubt. We can leave that on there. Okay, let me set this stuff aside. Alright. This little piece right here just holds the timing chain on. That's so when you're doing the top end and you drop the timing chain in here to swap it out, it'll stay in contact with the sprocket on the crank there. There's the old timing chain. Let me set that old thing aside. You look at the screen right here, see how that's looking. There's nothing caught up in it. It's looking good. I'm just checking everything out while I'm in here. Timing chain guide is looking good. Yeah. Alright, let me get the new timing chain. Where did it go? Hot cam timing chain. And I'll probably have to cut it out. of this little package. Let's see. Let's see if I can rip it out. Yeah. All right. Comes with a sticker. I have a collection of stickers around here. Let me get this out of my way for the time being. Alright, here we go. I'm just looking at the chains, seeing if sometimes these chains are just repackaged OEM chains. I'm just kind of comparing it and seeing, no, it's not. The OEM chain's definitely a little different. It's a nice looking chain though. Alright, just hang it over like that. Threads look nice and clean. It doesn't look like they use any thread locker on this. But I will be. Where did my stuck nuts go? There it is. Just a dab will do. You don't have to go crazy with it. That's it. It's surprising that I don't see a some thread locker on there from the factory, but that's how it goes sometimes. I got this on the low setting. Yes, I do. Bottom that out for me. Now I'll tighten up by hand so I can get a good feel for it. There are torque specs for every single nut and bolt on a motor, and if you're not familiar with working on them, it might not be a bad idea to break out a torque wrench and follow the torque specs. But yeah, got it pretty good. I've been working on these things for a long time, and my hands are pretty calibrated, so I don't really have to use a torque wrench for everything. But I do understand for the guys that, you know, this is not what you do for a living, or you haven't been doing this for a long time and you just don't have a clue. I totally get it. Break out the torque wrench until you get familiar with things. I remember I had a buddy, Patrick. Hey Patrick, what's going on, man? If you're watching this video, one time I told him, he asked how tight he can put a bolt for what was it? It was a pretty hefty bolt, a motor mount bolt on a CRF250, the bottom one. He asked, how tight can I put it? I said, dude, you can put that thing as tight as you want, man. It's a, yeah. Now I was saying that within reason. 5 seconds later, he's like, oh, I just stripped it. What? You said I can put it as tight as I want? Oh, yeah. I kind of, I don't know. I thought I was speaking to myself there when I say you can put it as tight as you want. I'm thinking within reason, you know, like just crank it down. Okay, that's back on there. As you see, you got to match it up. There's a cutout right there for the keyway. Let me double check in here one more time because I was just talking and not paying attention, going on autopilot. There we go. Alright. Here's the brake cleaner. Spray a little bit of brake cleaner on these threads here. There we go. I just want to get the oil off so the thread locker can really bite. I already did the nut here off camera. Alright, just a dab will do. Some thread locker. Again, I like using the red stuff on the inside of a motor. It handles heat better and high vibration, and we have both of that going on in here. Okay, again, I've been doing this for a long time. I know my tools, I'm very familiar with them. I'll be using my old trusty earthquake impact here, setting number 1. Put it on. I'm going to hold the rod here so the motor don't spin. I'm going to hit it with setting number 1 just to bottom it out pretty good. It's a light setting. I just kind of keep hitting it until it doesn't spin the nut anymore. Then I'm going to go to setting number 2. This one has 3 settings, but I'm going to go to setting number 2, give it just a few wraps. I'm going to watch the bolt too, see how much it spins as I hit it. And that's good right there. Now, if you're not familiar with your impact, or you don't do this often, or you just don't want to take the chance, They do sell tools that can grab the flywheel right in here. You can hold it with like a big pair of pliers that grab it here, and you can use a torque wrench to torque it to specs. There's also another way to do it, is remove the clutch cover on the other side, wedge a piece of aluminum. Motion Pro even sells a little gear, half moon shaped thing that you can slide between the main crank gear and the big gear on the clutch. You put it in there so it locks the motor from spinning, and then you can come over here and torque this thing down to the factory specs. But if you're familiar with your impact, just use impact. That's how most mechanics are doing it professionally in the shop. It's just pretty much it's just how it's done nowadays. But you do need to be familiar with your impact if you're going to do that. Some of these impacts are really strong, and just you have to have some experience with it. All right, we got to remove this gasket here, because some of these impacts are really strong and they can strip stuff out so quickly. Or you can go the opposite way and think you have a really strong impact and you really didn't put enough torque down. Same thing, brand new razor blade. These gaskets are a PETA. I'm going to cover this little hole right here with a paper towel, because that goes, let me put in this little hole right here, because as I work this gasket off, I don't need anything getting up in there. That's going to be shooting right into the crankshaft, right into the center hole of the crankshaft here. I just don't need anything getting in there. Now these gaskets, oh, this one's not seeming too bad. All right, lucky me. Woo! These OEM Honda gaskets are literally, sometimes they're literally glued on. This one seems to be coming right off. Oh, I don't have the camera on here good enough for you guys, do I? There you go. Lucky me. I thought I was going to be spending 20 minutes on this gasket. Let's be careful when you get right here. You don't want your razor bumping them wires. A little tight right there. It wasn't too bad. I'm gonna swap out razors. I know that one's still working and still looking good and everything like that, but it's always nice to have a new one. They do a little bit better. I don't know if you see in my background here, look at all the packs of razors I have right there. I think I got 4 packs piled up right there. I fly through these things. I'm constantly using a new one. That's just the way to do it. It's safer, especially if you're gonna do it barehanded like this. Or should I say, without a tool that holds a razor. A sharp razor, you don't have to put as much force in it. Try flipping it. Yeah, it's tight right here. That's usually how it is all the way around. It's tight on these, but this one is again, I just don't think this motor's been very hot. I think this bike has had a good life. Just getting rid of the last little bit that might have stuck. It has 2 pickups. This bike does. Higher resolution on the crankshaft position. And they kind of had to do that with these 4-strokes when they first went fuel injection, because it needs to know what is top dead center on the firing stroke to fire the injector. When you're kicking it and it doesn't quite know yet, it's going to fire on every top dead center until it figures it out real quick. And it's going to also squirt fuel on every top dead center until it figures it out. It usually figures it out within a rotation or 2, and it knows. And at that point, it only squirt the fuel and fire the plug when it's at top dead center of the power stroke. If you watch my diagnosing videos where I diagnose these bikes, I've run into all this stuff doing these things, and I've kind of figured out their logic and how they work. You have to if you're going to figure out how to repair it. All right, let me show you something here. Something that I'm seeing. This happens. It's normal. It happens. These are magnetic, right? You see how my tool sticks to it? And what happens is you want to check. Sometimes you get some magnetic debris that stick here. Sometimes you'll get some that stick here too, like this right here. See this? Look at this. That's just metal from the motor, bearings and stuff, just shedding. On this bike, I'm not going to say it's transmission because this has a separate oil between the motor and the transmission. But that's definitely probably crank bearing debris and stuff. So I'm going to make sure I clean that off and blow that out and everything. And I'm going to get all this stuff cleaned up. I'll be right back. Okay, make sure there's no gasket material stuck in this. There's a little bit right there and right here. Work that off. Let's see. Alright, we're looking good. Let's break out the new gasket. Honda. Hey, they changed the color. They went from green to blue. Okay. Get that on there. Let's not forget this. That would suck. Okay. You can see I cleaned all that metal debris that was stuck on these pickups, or that one pickup. Alright. Let me double check my work, make sure everything's looking good. We got that nice and tight. Okay. Gotta hold this thing firmly because that magnetic will grab it and yank it out of your hand as you're sliding. I see it just started to right there. There we go. She's on there. Okay. Where'd that cover go? Here it is. We have this cover. Does it block some of the hardware? The other hardware? Yeah, it does actually. I already forgot which ones it uses and it doesn't. There you go. Actually, I'm gonna put that one here underneath the cover because that one's a little dirty looking. Oh wait, I had that one mixed up. Goes like that. There we go. All right, let me tighten these up first. Okay, tighten these up by hand now. You tighten them up by hand like I am, just choke up on the ratchet. You can strip these things out pretty easily. Don't go crazy with it, just bottom them out and snug them up. That's all you got to do. They don't need to be crazy tight. Trust me, I run into a lot of these that are stripped out because people just go for it. And they're small, they don't handle that much. Yep, feel like I got them all in the right hole there. It's a nice looking cover. And tighten these by hand. Alright, we'll go ahead and put the dipstick back in, wipe it up, make sure it's clean. Timing chains in, now we can start working on that piston and cylinder. So let me set the motor aside for a minute. Here we go. And swap out this rag for a nice clean one. Okay, cylinder works. Big bore. Yep, says big bore cylinder kit. Alright. It's for 2010 to 17, which all these instructions for this motor, if you're doing one of these at home, it's going to be the same from 2010 to 17. Alright, it comes with the gaskets, the big bore gasket kit. Make sure if you have big bore and you change out the top end, you get the big bore gasket kit. I have seen people just try using the regular head gaskets on them, and then the piston kind of bumps it on its way up. or should I say it bumps it when it's up at the very top dead center. The piston will bump the head gasket. Typically it'll stay running and it just marks up the piston and it makes for a sloppy job. Beautiful, beautiful cylinder. They got it honed really good. This is cool. Made in the USA. It is an A. They marked it, so that's cool. Oh, we got instructions. We got instructions for the piston rings. Okay. We have a decal. We have more instructions. Okay. And we have the piston kit. So let me set this box aside and let's see what we got here. Alright. Let me give the cylinder a good looking over. Make sure there's no flaws or anything. I'm pretty sure they check that if they have good quality control. But as a mechanic, it's important to always look your parts over. It's looking good. Sorry about the phone, guys. I got to keep the ringer on. I have a guy coming to drop a Banshee off here shortly. Alright, instructions. Before installing cylinder wash, be sure to wash out with either hot soapy water, parts cleaner solvent, blah blah blah. After washing, use compressed air to blow out the orifices, blah blah blah. Yeah, we'll do all that. Using a white rag or with engine oil, rub down the cylinder board, remove any honing dust. Yeah, we'll be doing that too. Continue this process. Okay. Must check and adjust the ring end gap for your individual application. Follow the guidelines that are provided with the Vortex piston kit. Okay, yeah, we'll be doing that. Okay. To receive proper performance lifetime of the cylinder piston installation, break in. Yeah, you got to break it in. For the first 2 to 3 hours of runtime, it should be at low RPM, small amounts of throttle openings. The goal is to keep engine operating temperature low. They're correct about that. High RPM or large amounts of throttle opening is not advised. Yeah, I mean 2 or 3 hours is a little excessive in my opinion, but I get it. It's definitely good practice. Alright, let's say about the ring gaps. Follow the piston ring gaps. Install the piston rings with the lettering facing up. Yep, we'll be doing that. Rotate the ring end gaps on the 4 strokes, at least 20mm separation. Basically stagger them. We'll be doing that. Avoid overlapping the ends of the oil expander and spacer ring. Yep, we'll be doing that too. All Vortex piston rings are already fitted to perform as they are OE and aftermarket cylinders in standard or big bore versions. For replated cylinders, pay particular attention to minimum gap as per below spreadsheet. So what they're basically saying is you shouldn't really have to worry about checking the ring end gaps or anything like that on this setup. You should just be able to bolt in and go. But if you had this replated, you might want to check your ring end gap and then go by these instructions. We're going to check it though, because now down in the description I will put a link to a video where I discuss ring end gaps and why you really don't have to check them if you have a stock cylinder, stock nickel plating, and you're using a stock piston with stock rings. They're plug and play. Just drop it in. You don't have to worry about ring end gaps. But if you have your cylinder replated, it's good to check it. Or if you're using an aftermarket piston, I will say wise codes seem to be pretty dang good. Where you can I don't even worry about checking wise codes if I'm using a stock cylinder. I just plug it right. They're real good at getting it right. But you know, if it's another brand, I'm gonna check it. Just I'm not as familiar with some of the other brands, and I want to be sure. So we got a brand new piston here. It looks like a nice, looks like a forged piston. This is a pretty piston. That's good. All right. The piston rings here. Let me pull that out of the bag. Cut that open real quick. Okay. Set that aside. Set this aside. And we have the wrist pin. We cut that open too. Put the circ clips in here. Okay. Okay, on the 4-stroke here, it mentions 4 to 6 thousandths for every inch of bore. So let's measure the bore. Put this thing on the inches here, zero it out. So we're about 3.14 basically of a 3 inches, 3.14 inches. So that's going to be about, if we go on the tighter end here using the 4, because if you read down here they mentioned to use the tighter end unless you have a heavily modified motor to make a lot more heat, and then go by the looser end. I'm not going to say this is heavily modified because this is a stock compression more or less. It's big bore, but it's not a high compression, even though it has a camshaft in it. This is not a highly modified motor. It's just a mildly modified motor, so I'm going to stick with the tighter end. Okay, so if we're looking for 4 thousandths per inch, and we got 3 inches, so that's 4, 8, 12. Well, we got a hair over 3 inches, 3.14 inches. Let's say 3.15. So it's going to be about a 12. Yeah, 12. Just a hair over 12 thousandths. Just a hair is what we're looking for on the ring end gap. So I'm going to slide the piston ring in here. I'll use the piston, I'll put it upside down here and just push the ring in there. There we go. Okay, let's start with the 12 thousandths here. Alright, 12 thousandths goes right on in there. In between the gap, let's try the 13. Yeah, 13 goes in, but it's a tight fit. But that's good, right? We can get 13 in. See, we got it in there, the 13 thousandths. But it's definitely a tight fit. So I'm going to say this is dead on, just like your instructions said it would be. I'm going to say we're good. Let's try the 12 one more time. Where did it go? There it is, 12 thousandths. Just try it one more time. Let me get that ring in there straight again. Yeah, there we go. They got it dead on, so we're good to go. We can just toss this sucker right on in. We don't have to do any filing or anything, which is good. I don't like filing piston rings unless I absolutely have to. Try to avoid it at all costs when I can. So, all right. But if you had to file it, make sure you get it nice and square. That's why I don't like to file them, because you got to be real careful, and if you over file it, then you have too big of a gap. I do like it when they come just ready to go. That just gives me a nice warm and fuzzy feeling. And these are ready to go, so we are good. So we can go ahead and start installing the piston rings and stuff. Like they said, make sure the lettering, you see they have a little lettering right there and right here. Make sure that's faced up. We'll get that after we do the oil ring. And you make sure they're staggered, like they mentioned. Get the expander in here. Alright. We got 2 oil rings here. Now these don't have any lettering or top or bottom. You just put these in either which way. But it's nice to get them staggered. Of course that one just jumped out. Start over. Get in there. Alright, I'm going to hold that in with my finger. They like to jump out as you're trying to put them in. Okay, got that one in. I'll put the gap for on the other side for the other one. Got that in. So we got one gap in on this side, one gap in on that side, so we're good. They're staggered. And now the compression ring again with the writing faced up top, and stagger it, the ring end gap. There we go. So ring end gap there, and then no gap, then gap. On the other side we have just the gap in the middle there. So that's good. We'll double check it again, obviously, before we slide the cylinder on. Alright, let's see, which way do I want to put this on? Again, I have a whole video on putting these circlips in, because these things can be a real PETA. And I know I kind of go through it pretty quick when I'm putting these motors together and showing you how I do it. and some people don't quite get it and how quickly I do it. So I made a video specifically on these, kind of just showing you how I do it. I'm just going to do it real quick on camera here, but if you don't really get it, then check down the description. You'll see I put the end gap right here, where the end gap right here of the circlip, right there where that little groove of the piston is. I'll use my thumb here and press it in like this. I got the wrist pin in there, but I got my finger in here holding it. That's just going to keep the circlip from going all the way through. And I just walk it in. Now this is a tight one, but we're getting it. Okay, that one's in. And then I'm just going to center it out in that little groove right there if I can. If you can't, don't fight it. Just leave it where it's at. But if you can, I like to, just to make it a cleaner job. There we go. And I'll put the other one on while it's on the bike, obviously, or on the motor, obviously. Alright, let me slide the motor over here. Let's get that piston on. But before I put the piston on, before I do that, let me blow out these holes, each one. There we go. I just want to get any debris out of them, any oil that might be in them, anything like that. So when we go to torque down the head, we get a good torque reading. And this chain is getting binded up. There we go. Drop that in the hole. Okay. The arrow on this piston points towards the exhaust, but I'm also going to verify it by looking right here. You can see the intake valves are bigger, they have bigger reliefs. The exhaust is smaller. The intake on this bike is on the back side of the motor, so we'll have it correct. Almost forgot. And put it just a little bit of semi lube up in here. I'm just going to drop it in them holes. I don't know if I can get my finger up in there. I can a little bit. There we go. You don't have to put a lot. Just get a little bit up in there. It's going to get motor oil on it pretty quickly on startup. It's not going to waste any time getting oil up there. But that's just for initial startup. Okay, we got that in place. Let me get a clean rag here. Put it around in case that circlip goes flinging off. I don't want it going down up in the motor where it's hard to get out. Okay, I'm gonna put this one on the same way. Although this is kind of awkward position here with the camera, but I'm gonna try to get it all on camera. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this on camera. I'm going to do it the same way I did it right here on the bench, the first one. I'll be right back. Okay, I got that sucker on in there. Okay, like I always like to do, I like to verify, get a good visual that it definitely made it all the way in the groove. Circlip's good, and I like to check the other side too. Even though I did it while I was on the bench, I still double check it just to be safe. You don't want one of these suckers coming loose while your motor's running, that's for dang sure. Looking good. Okay. These dowel pins in their place. The gasket kit. Big bore gasket kit. Got a new exhaust gasket there. And there's a cylinder base gasket that we need. We set these other gaskets to the side for now. Check the rings, make sure I got them in the right place. They're still staggered. Yes, they are. Okay, let me take that cylinder outside and clean it up real quick like they said in the instructions, and I'll be right back. Okay, got the cylinder all cleaned up. Now, I personally, if the cylinder is used, I put the piston in bone dry. I don't put any sim lube, oil, or anything. Bone dry with a bone dry cylinder on a used cylinder, and it's good to go. I explained that in some of my other videos, that the rings will seat quicker, as well as far less likely to smoke. But on a brand new cylinder like this with fresh honing, you're gonna wanna lube it up and then wipe the oil off at minimum. Basically, get a little bit of lube up into the honing. Now, I would typically use motor oil, just regular motor oil, because I'm gonna put the motor in the bike and start it up right away. But because this one's gonna be mailed back to Eric, and I don't know how fast he's gonna get it back in the bike, I'm gonna use a semi lube. The beauty of a semi lube is it's tacky and it sticks around. A motor can sit on the shelf for years and that lube will just hang right in there, where motor oil will eventually kind of find its way to the bottom. I prefer motor oil because, well, whatever kind of lube you use is going to mix with your motor oil that you run in the bike. And if you're just planning on starting the bike right up, you might as well use motor oil, because then you don't have to worry about contaminating your motor oil. But again, this one's getting shipped out, so we're going to use a sim lube. I got it all coated up with a sim lube. Now I'm just going to take a clean paper towel and wipe it dry. Not too dry, just get the excess off. That's it. So it won't look oily, but if I touch it, I can feel it's oily to touch, and that's really all you need. See my finger right here? Now my finger's nice and shiny. So that's all you need. Alright, let's get it on the bike. Okay, check one last time the rings are still staggered. Yes, they are. And that the arrow's facing the correct direction. Yes, it is. Alright. Do I have this on camera good? I think so. I'm going to tuck the back end of the cylinder first. I mean the piston into the cylinder first and kind of seat the rings in there. That way I don't really only... Oh well, maybe the other side, however it wants to fall in. We'll get it in there one way or another. You got to kind of press the rings in, help them out. There we go. Slide it right on down. Okay, I slid the cylinder up just a little bit. I made a slight mistake, and I think it's important to cover my mistakes, because if I make the mistake, then it's probably likely there's a possible chance you can too. I couldn't get the cylinder to go all the way down. I assumed, I said, uh-oh, the dowel pins. See how short these are? See how long these are? This particular motor uses longer ones up top for the cylinder head and shorter ones down for the cylinder. I didn't know that. Most motors use the same top and bottom, but this one's a little different. So I peeled it back up to slide the smaller ones in here. Like I said, I think it's important to cover my mistakes. Yeah, it might make me look like a dumbass, but hey, we all make mistakes. And I can save you from the trouble. So now I got the long ones for the cylinder head. Alright, now I should still slide it back down. I was wondering, there it is. That's why you saw me tapping like that. I was like, why are you going down? But yeah, alright, it's on now. It's flush. So make sure yours is flush, and you'll know you have it right. Okay. Alright, where'd that bolt go? Here it is. I'm just going to put this in there lightly for now. You don't want to torque this down yet until you have the cylinder head bolts down, because it's just one tiny little bolt on the side here. But it will help hold the cylinder on for us. Okay, where'd my magnet go? There you go. Pull that timing chain up out of there, because we need to put this guide in, this timing chain guide right here. Oh, goes in this way. My bad. There we go. Let me hang that over the edge here. Man, that's the most important thing. Okay, now we can put these longer dowel pins where they belong. Break out the brand new head gasket here. Excuse the noise, I got a guy that lives behind me cutting his grass now. I'm going to have to pull the timing chain up and out for this one, so I can move that in. There we go. Oh, got my hand blocked. What am I doing here? Alright, now we can slide the cylinder head on. I'm going to take one more peek at the bottom sealing surface here. Make sure no dust or anything got on it. It's nice and clean. It's looking good. Alright. There we go. Got that set on there. All four of these are the same length. However, there's two that go inside the valve cover and two that go outside, so I'm going to look for the inside ones and put them back on the inside. First, let me get some motor oil. Put a little bit of lube on each one of these washers. That's just going to help during the torque down, so we can get good, accurate measurement, and removes the friction the best we can. And I'm going to lube the threads on each one of these bolts here. Same thing, it just helps relieve the friction, so when we go to torque the bolts down, we get a good torque reading and good accurate torque. Alright, drop these in place. That one, I don't see any oil on. I know I dipped in oil. Maybe it just came off. Put in oil again. Alright. Alright. Use my impact on low setting here just to seat them down for me. Then we'll break out the torque wrench. Alright, the manual calls for 33 foot-pounds, so let's go ahead and torque it down to that. And it says it to do it in 2 steps. I'm going to start at 20. Set my torque wrench to 20 here. Alright. So first I just bottom them out before I actually shoot for 20. And you want to go in sequence, you know, like diagonally, here, here, there, there, that type of deal. Let me put this motor where I can hold it better. There we go. Okay, now I'll shoot for the 20. 20. Alright, set it to 33. Okay, got it set to 33 now. It's hard to do it while it's on the bench because you got to hold the motor while you torque it. Yep, that's it. Alright. Alright. There we go. Okay, I'd like to make one more run again at 33 just to make sure. That's good. That's good. That's good. And that's good. Alright. We got that torqued down. Go ahead and tighten these suckers down now. And this one down here finally. There we go. Okay, I'm going to have to put the camshaft in now, but I need to time it in, so move this cover. I'm going to come up top here. Let me slide you up here so you can see. And where'd my magnet go this time? Dang it, there it is. Pull the timing chain up out of the hole. It should already be at top dead center because that magnetic draw kind of holds it there. But let me come down here and look and see. I believe we are. I'll get you up in here and show you. On the flywheel in here, there are two marks. There is one right here, a black mark. There's another one right in front of it. Well, which one is it, right? It's the one on the right. It's the rearward facing one when the motor is spinning, which the motor spins on this side of the motor spins counterclockwise. But for good measure, I typically like to verify top dead center. So what I'm going to do is stick a long extension in the spark plug hole here gently. Don't want to. There it is. Put my tool on the other side on the crank so I can spin the motor. You want to hold the timing chain up. I'm going to spin it and find top dead center here by watching the Yep, okay. That's definitely top dead center. Wherever that's at, that is top dead center. So, let's see where it's at. Well, they had it right. I always check that. It's just important to check. You want to see that that right there is lined up. That mark that's on the right side of the two marks, the one on the right, is dead center in this little window right there. And it is. So we're good there. And I believe the other mark is for setting the ignition timer or checking the ignition timer. They call that the F mark or fire. And the one on the right is the T mark or timing or top dead center. I'm sorry. Yeah, T for top. So we got it at top. We're good there. Okay. Let's drop that new cam in. Okay, this hot cam can be a little confusing, right? Because for the marks that we're going to be... Get it to focus. Autofocus. There we go. Alright, you can see it's got a mark here and a mark there, but it also has one here and one there. Which one is it for this cam? Well, what I'm going to do is go back to the stock cam and look at that. The stock cam only has one set right here. It doesn't have another set dead center. So, and they put a white mark there letting you know that these are the ones you use. So, yeah, we're going to go by them, which is the ones down here on this one. Okay, we're going to go by that. Slide this on in. Oh wait, hold on, let me look where the marks are at. There we go. Try to guess it right the first time. Let's see where I'm at. Oh, no, a little bit off. Wait, I went the wrong way. That looks like it right there. All right. Yeah, what they're doing is they're using that cam gear probably for two different motors. Same cam gear, and that's why they did it like that. Okay, I see what that's hitting. I'm just lining these grooves right here to some index marks like I showed you earlier. Alright. And now this is where I'm going to follow their instructions and put some lube on the cam journals here. I'm going to go a little crazy with it just again because this motor is being shipped back. And I don't know how long it's going to be until he gets it back in the bike and running it. So I just want to get it pretty good. There we go. That should be pretty good. It's nice and thick. All right, let me get the rocker. There we go, got that in place. Get these pieces right here. Alright. Intake left, so the left side is going to be this side. There we go. Intake right. Alright. And the cam cap bolts. I will put a dab of Loctite on each one of these. I know it's not, let me spray it with some brake clean first. I know it's not absolutely necessary. They don't do it from the factory. But I've seen them come loose before on people. I don't know if it's because they didn't have them very tight or what happened, but I've seen them come loose and I've seen the damage that they cause. And a lot of the bikes that I work on, people ride them really hard. A lot of these bikes are race bikes and they're doing some huge jumps, and I just don't want to take any chances of stuff coming loose while people are out riding. Is that going in all the way? There we go. And I do these bikes as if I was working on my own bike, because I don't need anything going wrong. If it goes wrong, let it not be my fault. Let me give it the best fighting chance of surviving. All right, where'd my ratchet go? Let's see. Here it is. And I'll just torque these down by hand. They do have torque specs for them. You can follow that if you like. I've been doing it for a long time. I know what I'm looking for here. Get a little bit tighter than that. There we go. There it is. Okay, I haven't put the timing chain tensioner in yet. Remember I mentioned these won't jump timing, these Hondas, these single cams, without the timing chain tensioner. So we're free to spin the motor. It might clink a little bit when it goes to try to, the cam tries to swap forward or back, but otherwise it'll stay timed in. What I'm checking for here is that we definitely have the marks right. Anytime we're dealing with aftermarket stuff, aftermarket camshafts, whatever, I like to double check this stuff. You just never know with the aftermarket stuff. You just want to verify, right? Especially because there was 2 marks in this, and we could have went off the matting surface of here or of here, and we chose to go off the ones that were right here on this side because that's how the stock cam in this motor works. So what I'm doing is I'm sticking this we're on the top dead center, and at the beginning of the intake stroke. So it's going to be closing the exhaust valves and opening the intake valves kind of at the same time, right at top dead center. I'm also fighting the magnetic draw of the stator here too at the same time, so you got to keep that in mind. But all I'm doing is making sure that that valve event happens near top dead center. So I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Let me get you better up in here. All right, so I have this here so I can feel the pistons moving up and down. I'm watching the bucket right here. this bucket, and I'm also watching the rocker arm for the exhaust, right? So I'm going to go backwards a little bit with the cylinder. Okay, the piston's going back down. I'm going backwards. I want to go to where the intake valves are fully closed again. What I'm watching is this. Okay, they're fully closed, right? And the exhaust valves cracked open a little bit. So, oh, they're fully closed. Exhaust valves cracked. Now I'm going to slowly let it up, and you'll see, over here, you'll see this come up as I do it, and you'll see it starts to, it's closing the exhaust valve, and it's starting to open the intake valves. So what I'm looking for is this rod to turn around at any point now. All right, now I'm fighting against the stator. This piston's still coming up. It's open the intake. It's closing the exhaust. Piston's still coming up. Open the intake. It appears that it has closed the exhaust now, and it's still open the intake, and the piston is now moving downward. So it appears that's timed in properly. So we're going to be good. I know it seems strange that it would actually start to open the intake valves while the piston's still moving upward, but that's how performance camshafts work. They're relying on the header. They want the exhaust valve and the intake valve to kind of be open about the same time, somewhere in that area, because now the header is going to have a vacuum to it, and it's going to be pulling charge. So they want the intake valve to open and go ahead and start flushing out that cylinder, the scavenging as they call it, and start filling that up with some fresh charge. Alright, let me look everything over real quick. Let me also do one complete cycle. Make sure none of the valves hit a piston or anything. It's better that we do it now while it's on the bench. If a valve was to hit the piston, I would feel it and I would stop and not bend the valve, basically. Because once your foot's on it, you start kicking it, that's a totally different story. Okay. Turn the motor around over here. Put it back to top dead center. We'll be looking at the timing marks in here for that. There we are, we're at top dead center now. Now I can see that we're at top dead center by looking down here in that hole, and coming up here, and I see the camshafts lined up. Okay, let's go put the tensioner in. We're about to wrap this bad boy up. What'd I do with it? Alright, tensioner here, pull off the old gasket because we have a new one. You gotta use a really small flathead, put it in here, and you twist it, and it will compress this. Now there's two ways to do this. When you get it all the way there, you can, a little bit, it'll stay put on its own, right? Or you can use one of these keyways right here and pop that in there and hold it in place for you. But since it's holding on its own, I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Alright, let me clean this up a little bit. Slide the new gasket on it. I'm not going to touch it with my end pack because when it's held like that on its own, all it takes is a good thump or bump and it'll unlash on you. I don't need that, so do it by hand. Go. Okay, it's still, I can wiggle it a little bit, so let's see. Now I gotta unhook it. There it is. Now it's tight. Okay, verify one last time that the timing mark down here is good. Yep, that's where it's supposed to be, and that the timing right here is good. That's where. I wonder how many people got that wrong, because this is, I believe this is for this bike, but also for the older model that used these marks and matched up. I wonder how many people got it wrong, installed it, but I hope not a lot. Alright, let's put this back on. About to wrap this sucker up. Put it in the box and send it back. Okay. Before I put the valve cover on, just put a dab bit more of a Similube up here. I I will suggest that he changes the oil pretty much shortly after startup. Like, fill it up with oil, start it up, do 3 heat cycles. I would change the oil again right after 3 heat cycles, because that assembly lube is just going to contaminate your oil. Honey, what's going on? Well, anyway, say hi to everyone, Beavis. Come on now. Come on. You can do it. Just one quick roost. Just knock one out. There you go. Okay, the valve cover's on. Bolt it down. Pop this sucker back in here. Got the one on the other side to put back in too. Pop the spark plug in it. And that'll be a wrap, I believe. Okay, it's getting mailed back, so I don't want anything getting up in here or up in the exhaust port. Shoving some gloves in it. There it is, guys. Big bore with the hot cam, fresh and ready to go. Everything's packaged up and ready to get sent back to Eric. But my day's not over yet. It's 4 o'clock. I still have some more time, so I have a Gas 2023 450. Check this out. What side was this on? Oh yeah. Crap. He was racing it. First corner pile up. Someone's foot peg went right into his case. So bummer. So I'm gonna get started now. I won't be doing a video on that one. I do have a KTM 450 I did a transmission on, if you're curious how to pull these out and put them back in and all that. It's the same thing. I gotta knock this out quick, so I can't be filming because he needs his bike back so he can get back to racing it. But that's pretty much a wrap. So yeah, this weekend I'm gonna be taking out my YZ125. That's my YZ250 right there. The YZ125's in the other shop. I need to pull that over here and start getting it ready for the weekend. But I'm going to be taking that out to Tampa MX on Sunday if the weather holds. I hope it does. I haven't ridden that bike in probably 2 or 3 months because I've been on this one, so it's going to be interesting to go back to the 125. It's going to feel so light, maybe a little underpowered versus this bike, but that's all right. It'll work a little harder and become a better rider. So hope all you guys get a great weekend of riding in, and appreciate the work, Eric. And DJ, be careful on that CRF250R with that big bore and hot cam. It's definitely going to make a little bit more power. Have a good time. Be safe. Catch you next time.